Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining in. We have a great show planned for you this week. Later on the show, I'll have with me West Virginia Democratic candidate for governor Stephen Smith. We'll be hearing all about how he's doing things a little bit differently on the campaign trail. But first, we'll start with some of our usual features. And I want to first recognize a community champion. I'm the president of the board of directors at the Wheeling YMCA. And each year we have what's called the Light of the Valley Luncheon every August. This is the 13th year that we've done that. And this year we honored Dr. Gregory Merrick. That was just this week at the White Palace at Wheeling Park. And Dr. Merrick is really nationally renowned for more than one reason. It's unusual to be nationally renowned for one reason, let alone more than one. But he's a nationally renowned as a prostate cancer doctor, has utilized techniques that where people all over the country, really all over the world, come here to Wheeling, West Virginia to see him because he's done so much with respect to men's health and is really prominent in his field. Over 300 publications, and has just really done a fantastic job with that. But in combination with that, he's also done something else to promote men's health, and that's what he's also nationally renowned for, is being a basketball tournament director. He has the Cancer Research Classic each January here in Wheeling. Started out at Wheeling, what's now Wheeling University, was Wheeling Jesuit University, and now is at West Banco Arena. And he brings in the top high school basketball teams from all over the country. Most of these guys go on to play at a high-level college. Some of them go on to play in the NBA, but he's been doing this now for over a decade, and they come in here and they play this basketball tournament, and ESPN even televises it. And he's really known as one of the top high school basketball tournament directors in the country, in addition to being known throughout the country and throughout the world as a world-class doctor. So, the YMCA recognized him not only for those feats and the attention he brings to Wheeling, the positive effects he has on the economy through the tournament, through his work as a doctor, but also he's been very giving to the YMCA. When Adam Shinsky, the executive director, reaches out to him and says, "Hey Doc, we could use this," he's always willing to give, and gave a fantastic speech this week at the event at the White Palace about youth of today and how we would think things should be easier for them than any generation before, but it's really much more difficult, and that's why we need places like the YMCA. And he talked a lot about just the difficulties for kids and how we can help them, and things we can provide for them so that it makes it so kids can succeed. So he's certainly a community champion here in this community and really throughout the country. So congratulations to Dr. Merrick for being the 2019 YMCA Light of the Valley Award winner, and he was presented with the Dr. Lee Jones Patron of Youth Award at the event. Give you a legal tip here this week also. That's I've given this before. I like to when school year starts, but that's stop for school buses. Whether you're going the same direction or the opposite direction of the road, and it doesn't matter whether it's a 2-lane road or a 4-lane road. Sometimes people think there's a difference. There's not. If there's a school bus stopped with its sign out because it's letting kids out, you must stop. And really, you should stop as far back as possible. There's a couple reasons for that. Give the kids plenty of room to cross, but also, let's say someone behind you wouldn't realize that you're stopped for a school bus and would unfortunately hit into the back of your vehicle. The last thing you want is to be propelled forward into one of those kids. So stop far enough back that if somebody would happen to hit you, you're not propelled into those kids. And stay there, be patient. Stop plenty of time before. As soon as you see a school bus, even if you think that, hey, that bus may not be stopping. If you see a bus, slow down enough to see if it's going to be stopping soon, and then wait long enough until the bus lets all the kids out, they all cross, the bus driver puts the sign back in, and the bus starts to drive again in its lane of travel. Then you should start going. Really important. I've handled cases, lawsuits where kids were struck by cars that were getting off the school bus or crossing the street or waiting for a school bus. Very sad situations because you have a car hitting a walking or a standing still kid. As you can imagine, kids usually hurt pretty bad. So be extra careful out there. Give you a quote here this week as well. Always like to do that. And this one comes from Senator Paul Wellstone of Minnesota, who tragically died in a plane crash in 2002, but really memorable senator. And he said this: "The people of this country, not special interest big money, should be the source of all political power." The people of this country, not special interest big money, should be the source of all political power. And I think that's a great quote because there really are two types of power in politics. That's people power and money power. And I certainly think that it's better when the people have the power. The people of this country, the people of this state, the people of this community have the power and not big money, especially money from out of state. And that's one of the things that our guest this week talks a lot about. Stephen Smith, he talks a lot about how the people should have the power. Let's have a government that it truly is a people's government. And we'll hear all about that from him on today's show. We need to take a break. When we come back, Stephen Smith will be with me. Stay here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
The Panhandle Difference.
It was a really easy process.
getting started with them, and then bam, it just took off. We've had a lot of gatherings here. We've had a whole basketball team, we've had lots of family dinners, birthday parties. I mean, I can't wait for holidays to come. It's a great kitchen. Honestly, it couldn't have turned out any better.
When reviewing your oil and gas offers or royalty check statements, do you wonder, am I being offered a fair amount? Do I feel comfortable reading the statement? Do I have peace of mind? If you answered no to these questions, you need Bordas Mineral Management. Our passion is helping mineral owners protect and expand their mineral wealth. Our examiners tell you whether you're being treated fairly and getting paid what is rightfully yours. Bordas Mineral Management. Be protected. Have peace of mind.
Welcome back to the show. This is my favorite time each week when I have a guest with me, and this week's no different. I have with me Democratic candidate for governor, Stephen Smith. Stephen, thanks for being here on the show.
My pleasure, man. Thanks so much for having me.
You know, you've generated a lot of excitement here with this gubernatorial run. You know, a first-time candidate for office and running for the highest office in the state, governor. A little bit unusual path maybe, but making so much noise because of the method you're going about. It's really, I think, different than what people have seen in West Virginia before.
Thanks. Yeah, so we're not telling the same old lie that politicians tell, which is that I'm the candidate and I'm here to save everything. We don't think that any one person can save us in West Virginia, not Jim Justice, not Joe Manchin, not me. What we need is a movement, not a king. And so that's what we're building. Tonight will be our 113th town hall across the state. We're not taking corporate cash, but what we're showing is that when the people are in charge, whether that's in our campaign or in our communities, good things happen. So even though we aren't taking those corporate donations, we've actually outraised every other candidate, Jim Justice, Woody Thrasher, all of them combined. So far, so good.
You know, people may wonder, who is Stephen Smith? I mean, you know, where's he from? Where'd he come from? What's he do? You know, that type of thing. So, you know, you actually were born here in West Virginia, and a lot of people may not know that.
Yeah, I was born in Charleston 39 years ago. I learned at a young age what I think most of us learn here, which is that in West Virginia we judge ourselves by the people we serve and care about, not by the things that we own. So what that looked like for me is my dad helped start the West Virginia Coalition for the Homeless, the Public Defender Services. My mom raised me and my sister and foster kids and extended family members, and had kids sent to our house from the elementary school that needed a little extra love. So that's what I learned growing up in West Virginia. My family moved away to Texas when I was a kid. I graduated from Harvard, met my wife, Sarah, who's a public defender in Kanawha County. We met in Chicago and then moved back 7 years ago.
You know, you mentioned going to Harvard, and you know, people heard about Harvard and, you know, top university, top college in the country, and but you made some noise while you were there as well. You know, I've read some of the history about that, you know, by trying to get better wages for people like the custodians, the cafeteria workers, and really at a very young age, you know, trying to bring about justice, I think, you know.
Well, thanks for saying that. Yeah, it was outrageous. So here we were at this wealthy university with billions of dollars in reserves, and the security guards and janitors and food service workers were making less than poverty wages. So here were people just as smart as me, working as hard or harder than I was, and that we as students were, and yet they weren't able to raise their families in dignity, working 70, 80 hours a week at poverty wages. And so workers and students came together in solidarity. For 3 years, we ran a campaign where we did all the things you're supposed to do. We held rallies and teach-ins and petitions, and we did research, and we were very polite. And after 3 years of doing all of the things you're supposed to do, the university said, we've heard you, and we're going to provide these workers museum passes and other ways that they can lift themselves up. And it was an insult. It was an insult to us. It was an insult to the workers we were working alongside. And so at that moment we realized, and this is the most important lesson I've learned in my life, is that you don't make the kind of fundamental change we need by being nice. The only way we can change things is by building more power than our opponents. So 52 of us walked into the president's office. We conducted a sit-in. We refused to leave until we got a deal that would be good for workers. And 3 weeks later, there were about 25 of us left, and we had cut a deal that ultimately led to a living wage ordinance, essentially, on campus, so that today, if you work there, you're making $18 an hour plus benefits or more. And the thing is, that can happen in West Virginia too. We're told that West Virginia is a poor place, but it's just not true. Right now is the wealthiest time in West Virginia history. We can have the best roads and schools, the highest wages we've ever had. We just have to stop letting ourselves get robbed.
You mentioned coming back to West Virginia 7 years ago, and you're here now with your wife, and you have a child, and you're raising him here. And you also, though, have been very involved and ran a group called Healthy Kids and Families. And people may not necessarily know what that organization has done, but you've done a tremendous amount here over the past better part of a decade in West Virginia.
Well, thanks. Yeah, and not because of me. We had an incredible staff and leaders. West Virginia is known for being at the bottom of all these lists, but we're actually at the top of things like #1 in the country in volunteer service, top 5 in charitable giving and volunteer service and military service, the time we spend with extended family members, time with our neighbors, right? And so what our organization did is we tried to take all of these things that West Virginians are already good at, looking after one another, and turn those into community power and political power. And what that looks like is in the 7 years I was there, we helped start 300 rural teams to do things like build community gardens and small businesses and after-school programs. And then we also worked on state legislation, things like trying to raise the minimum wage, expand school breakfast. And we didn't win those things because of me. We won those things because we believed and worked hard to make sure that the people who are closest to the problem are also the ones in charge of solving it. And so the organization is still kicking and doing incredible work. Jennifer Wells is the new director, excited to see what they do next.
Well, we need to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue speaking with Stephen Smith. We'll talk about labor and movements here in West Virginia and how he believes that that's important for his campaign. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Sunset Motors is the 2019 Ohio Valley leader in Jeep, Ram, Chrysler, and Dodge sales. During the summer clearance event, get up to 25% off 2019 Rams, starting at $29,999, or lease one for $299 per month. Everyone qualifies. Lease a Compass Latitude for $259 per month, or get 0% financing. Lease a Cherokee Latitude Plus for $299 per month, or get 0%. Lease a Grand Cherokee for $319 per month, or get 0%.
You can love what you drive at Sunset.
At Ferguson's House of Furniture, you'll find the largest selection of the best brand name furniture and mattresses in the tri-state area.
Going on now, the more you spend, the more you save. Save up to 20% off your entire purchase. From living room and bedroom to dining and mattresses, we are your one-stop shop with our 80,000 square foot showroom.
Stop in today or shop online at daretocompareus.com.
Ferguson's House of Furniture. Make yourself at home.
Welcome back to the show. I've been speaking with Stephen Smith, who's running for governor here in West Virginia, a Democratic candidate for governor in the 2020 election. And we've been talking about your background, but let's turn to a little bit about the why. And I know particularly some of the history of the labor movement in West Virginia has been important behind your decision to run for governor.
Yeah, no. So in West Virginia, we have this incredible labor history that often in American history, when things are really at a breaking point, it's West Virginians who bind together, not because of any one leader or hero, but because of working people coming together and fight back. So that's the story of the founding of our state here in Wheeling, right? Western Virginians who didn't want to be a part of the Confederacy and the slave economy, forming their own Virginia. We saw that during the mine wars, where black, white, and immigrant workers, often not even speaking the same language, came together to fight against company rule. And then, of course, the spirit of the teachers and school service personnel strike last year, where wearing those same red bandanas I think the whole state, myself included, was inspired by what was possible and how these teachers, by taking courageous action, changed what was possible in the state.
You know, kind of appropriate, we're talking about this, you know, Labor Day weekend here coming up, and you know, you were involved, you know, in that teacher strike, you know, by with the fund, and why don't you talk about that a little bit, how you got involved in that as well?
Yeah, well, like a lot of folks, as a parent, a public school parent, I wanted to be involved in some way and pitch in some way. So there was people out there who were helping with feeding programs or working the picket line or whatever. And a few of our friends got together, a couple organizations, and started a strike fund. And we didn't know if it was going to work. We just put it out on the internet and asked friends and organizations. We ended up raising $332,000, mostly in tiny donations from West Virginia, from all over the world, people who were inspired by the courage of those teachers. And then we worked to make sure that every penny of that money went back into the pockets of not just teachers, but long-term subs, aides, bus drivers who were either losing wages as part-time workers were, or who were using those funds to help start feeding programs and support people in the community. So I was happy to play a small role in that, but the teacher strike is one of the main reasons why I'm running. I felt like if our teachers can both serve our kids in the way that they do every day and have the courage to also build this mass movement, the least our family can do is pitch in and try to run for office.
You know, I mentioned at the outset here that you're doing this in a different way than perhaps what people have seen in West Virginia before, and you talked about the movement, but you've got all these different groups, so to speak. You've got, you know, your campaign is called West Virginia Can't Wait, but then you've got, you know, those in recovery can't wait, you know, teachers can't wait, all these different, seniors can't wait, veterans can't wait, you know, all these different groups. I mean, you know, tell our viewers about that idea and what how it all comes together.
Yeah, so the idea is simple, right? That what our state needs is not 1,000 people in Ohio County who believe in one man, or 1,000 veterans who believe in one politician. What we need are thousands of residents in every county who believe in themselves and will fight like hell for themselves and their families regardless of who's in office. So that's what we're trying to build. In each of the 55 counties, we have a county team, and it's not, as you said, it's not Roane County or Ohio County for Smith. It's Roane County Can't Wait, because we want these to last beyond the election and for more than one candidate. So the other thing we're doing, in addition to those county teams and constituency teams, is we also have candidates, because we don't just need one. There are 53 candidates who have signed on up and down the ballot: city council, magistrate judge, delegate, senate, and all of us have pledged never to take corporate cash, never to hide from a debate, and never to cross a picket line. So if someone's watching this, if you've ever thought about running for office, here's your chance. You don't have to do it alone.
Where can people learn more about you? Since you mentioned, you know, they can't do it alone, how do they get in touch with you?
WVCan'tWait.com. On Facebook, we're WV Can't Wait, at WV Can't Wait on Twitter. My email is Stephen, Stephen, at WVCan'tWait.com. I love hearing from folks. Yeah, we're not too hard to find.
You know, that's one of the great things. I mean, I think is you're accessible. I mean, you know, people email you, they get a response. I mean,
that's me sending that response.
Yeah, and that's right. They're hearing from you, not some campaign staffer. And speaking of your staff, I mean, the first staff in history of a West Virginia campaign to unionize.
Yeah, we have the best staff that's ever been assembled, and I just can't say enough. Katie Lauer, our campaign manager, who, as much as anyone, is the architect of this strategy. People like Sarah Hudson and Jonna Bailey and Sue Ellen Waybright and Lissa Lucas, who are just doing incredible work. And you know, they aren't here with me in the studio today. They're out organizing and building the infrastructure, the movement, the machine that our state needs. And yes, a few weeks ago became the first staff in West Virginia history to unionize, and we hope that they're not the last.
You know, we talked about that. You know, I mentioned accessibility, but I think also being informed and having a pulse of the people, you know, is important. And you're getting around doing all those things. You know, we've had an announcement here recently in this area, in the Wheeling area, that at one of our hospitals, really two, because there's one over in Ohio as well, but the OVMC here in Wheeling has announced, Electo did, that it's going to be closing that hospital. Been here for 100 years or so, and a lot of jobs. And the governor said he was blindsided by it. And I think that took people a little bit of, said, hey, wait, what do you mean he's blindsided by this?
Yeah, I mean, this is what happens when we have a government that works for the good old boys. So for Jim Justice, for a bunch of politicians, it's not unique to him. Politics is a game, right? It's not real life for Jim Justice, it's sport. And for the rest of us, it's real life. It's where we decide who gets to eat and who gets medical care and who gets a job. And if we are asleep at the wheel, or we allow our government to be people who are asleep at the wheel, who are there for personal gain, then we can't be surprised when they aren't paying attention. And it's a tragedy. And one of the things that folks will know from our campaign is that if I'm governor, that kind of thing won't happen, not because I'm a great guy, but because we're building the infrastructure to hold government accountable regardless of whether or not I win.
Well, I wish you the best of luck. I know you're getting to so many counties. You talk about 113 town halls and all these county captains. I know it's a lot of traveling, a lot of work, but appreciate all you're doing to try to make West Virginia a better place for us and our kids and our grandkids someday. So thanks
for having me on the show.
Sure
I really
thing.
Appreciate it.
Good to have you here. We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll be talking sports. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Recommended by the highest authorities. Danoon Lumber.
Looks like a bad one's coming. Yeah, right?
The Panhandle Difference.
It was a really easy process getting started with them, and then bam, it just took off. We've had a lot of gatherings here. We've had a whole basketball team. We've had lots of family dinners, birthday parties. I mean, I can't wait for holidays to come. It's a great kitchen. Honestly, it couldn't have turned out any better.
Welcome back to the show. It's time to talk sports, and we'll start off in Pittsburgh with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I am really enjoying this preseason and watching the backup quarterback battle. Coming into this preseason, there was a question mark. Who will be the backup to Ben Roethlisberger? Will it be Mason Rudolph, the second-year guy out of Oklahoma State? Will it be Joshua Dobbs, the third-year guy out of Tennessee? I think there's another player that's emerged in this mix, and that's Devlin Hodges, who's a rookie out of Samford, not Stanford, out in California, Samford. That's an FCS school. They don't play in the bowl division, but formerly known as Division I AA. For those that may have watched in prior years or a little bit older, but the thing that I think is interesting is that Devlin Hodges, I think, has emerged as a potential practice squad type quarterback and capable third teamer. And that leaves you with, okay, you're not going to keep four quarterbacks, and so do you keep Rudolph or Dobbs? I think the Steelers look at Mason Rudolph as the quarterback of the future. I mean, they graded him as a first-round pick last year, though they were able to get him in the third round. And I think they look at him as the eventual heir to Ben Roethlisberger. They drafted Joshua Dobbs the year before out of Tennessee, and Dobbs showed some good things last year. But I think Rudolph's the guy of the future, and you've got a capable practice squad guy there in Hodges, whose skill set really probably mirrors some of the NFL quarterbacks and what you might want to see on the practice squad quarterback a little bit more than perhaps some of the other guys. So, you want to get Rudolph snaps to get him in practice, to get him ready to replace Roethlisberger someday. You can't really do that with three of them. I think the Steelers look and say, okay, what can we get out of Dobbs in a trade, or eventually maybe perhaps they release him. And, he's made some exciting plays in the preseason with his arm and with his feet. But the inconsistency, had a red zone interception. You want to see that consistency, and I think he makes some really nice plays, but he also makes some mistakes. I think Rudolph is more consistent. I think he has a big-time arm. He's obviously shown great chemistry with James Washington, his former college teammate at Oklahoma State, and so I like to see the Steelers keep Mason Rudolph as the backup, look to trade Joshua Dobbs, and then keep Devlin Hodges, the rookie, as the third quarterback. And speaking of James Washington, what a preseason he's had. Everybody was asking, what's going to happen with the Antonio Brown down. You have Juju Smith-Schuster there to step in, but James Washington has really looked good in the preseason. The question is, will that carry over into the regular season? I think it will. I mean, you're playing against NFL caliber talent in the preseason, so I think James Washington set up to have a nice year. The defense is looking fast and good. I mean, I think that the defense is shaping up to have a nice year too. I think can expect some big things from the Steelers. We'll talk about that some more in future weeks. Let's turn to college football. Let's set out your college football Saturday. At noon, Ohio State versus Florida Atlantic. First look at the Ryan Day tenure. Justin Fields at quarterback. Ohio State had an unbelievable coach. Urban Meyer, successful everywhere that he went as a head coach, and including at Ohio State, getting a national title, having that unbelievable record. I mean, single digits in losses over his entire career. But Florida Atlantic's been a nice team in the last couple years. Maybe dipped down a little bit last year from the year before. But Ohio State just too much talent for Florida Atlantic. Ohio State will roll in this one, but it'll be fun to see the first look at the Ryan Day tenure there. And then at 2 o'clock, WVU versus James Madison. Game really wouldn't typically be noteworthy, but the first game for Neil Brown and quarterback Austin Kendall, the Oklahoma transfer. WVU should win big in this one. I think WVU's going to have a better year than people think. I've said they're going to get to 8 wins. It'll be exciting to see what happens. Sellout crowd expected in Morgantown this weekend. Then at 3:30, right here on WTRF on ABC, Alabama versus Duke. Of course, Nick Saban back at Alabama, Tua back at quarterback. David Cutcliffe, the Duke coach, coached both the Mannings in college. Was Peyton's offensive coordinator at Tennessee, then Eli Manning's head coach at Mississippi. He always gives teams a tough time, but Alabama, just a roll of talent there, and I think they're going to win the national title this year. Alabama wins this one. 7:30, big game on right here on WTRF on ABC. Probably the game of the day. Number 11, Oregon at number 16, Auburn. Not easy to travel across the country like Oregon's going to have to do into SEC country. But Mario Cristobal, the Oregon head coach, knows Auburn. He spent 4 years at Alabama before he went out to Oregon. And, he's got a great quarterback in Justin Herbert. I think that Oregon goes out to Auburn and pulls off the upset. Even though they're ranked higher, Auburn's favored in this game. I like Oregon, though. And then Sunday night, we get some Sunday night football and some Monday night football. On Sunday night at 7:30, again, right here on ABC on WTRF, Houston at number 4, Oklahoma, the start of the Dana Holgorsen era in Houston. He gets Oklahoma again, of all teams, a team that he could never beat when he was in Morgantown. And Oklahoma has who at quarterback? Jalen Hurts, the former Alabama quarterback. Lincoln Riley calling the shots at Oklahoma, offensive genius. Oklahoma wins this one in Jalen Hurts' debut. And then Monday night, 8 o'clock on ESPN, number 9, Notre Dame at Louisville. Notre Dame needs to make a statement right out of the gate that last year wasn't a fluke getting to the playoff. I think that Irish team will be hungry to prove that. Brian Kelly's been doing well. Ian Book back at quarterback. I think they get off to a great start, and they beat Louisville on the road. That's all the time we have this week. Thanks for joining in. We'll see you again next week on The Jamie Bordas Show.